Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today's no exception. We have an amazing guest. But first, if you're feeling like your life is out of balance, like you're not meeting your own expectations in terms of business, relationships, health and exercise, if you're feeling overwhelmed on a daily basis, then the 2020 Goals Retreat is for you. You can have anything you want in life, but you can't have everything you want in life. And getting what you want is more about knowing how to say no, how to eliminate the clutter that's getting in the way of achieving your goals. I'd like to invite you for 3 days of intensive work during the first weekend of December so that you hit the ground running for 2020. It's going to be in a beautiful location on the Mexican Riviera, one of my favorite resorts in Mexico. To find out more or to register, send an email to goals@victorjm.com or visit the website at victorjm.com/events. That's victorjm.com/events. We're back this weekend. Our guest is no stranger to the podcast. He's none other than Mr. George Ross. George was a senior vice president in the Trump Organization for many years. He's the author of 2 best-selling books on real estate and negotiation. He was a judge on the TV show The Apprentice, and he taught negotiation at the law school at NYU for over 20 years. In business for over 60 years. Listen to my conversation with George Ross. So welcome, George. Great to have you here again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Let's go to work.
So, George, we've been participating in a monthly mastermind call now for several years, and the participants of the call love the quality of the feedback that they get from you. I love the fact that we can go deep on topics, whether it's related to negotiation, real estate, the economy, or even just how to manage the complexities of life. For future listeners or for future participants, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the source of the principles that you bring to the call? Maybe you can take a minute and share some of your experience for those who don't know you quite as well.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to do that because the background is all important. First of all, that you have to understand that over the period of years, I've been involved in businesses now for more than 60 years of all different kinds. And also involved with a major law firm, which I set up with 160 lawyers doing nothing basically but real estate, and was involved with Donald for 40 some odd years, doing a lot of interesting deals and understand how you can succeed in the business world. Also involved in owned radio stations. That was part of it. I got involved in that business and learned what it is to set up a production company, for radio, and also was involved with a major product with a factory that was making solid surface material in Albuquerque. Set up that business, or involved in that, mostly to the extent of the financing end. And more important than I think anything else is, over the long span of years, I've learned how important it is to negotiate. And how to negotiate, and most people don't know how to negotiate. And they don't know, and they just go sort of by the seat of their pants, and then they can't understand why it doesn't achieve the results that they want to achieve. And effectively, negotiation is being able to understand the people you're talking to, no matter who they are. You're always negotiating. If you're in business, if you're negotiating with your staff, or you're negotiating with business people, or you're buying things. And it's a lifelong experience, and I suppose I've compiled in my own way a whole host of ideas and things that made it good, and why some things were successful and some weren't successful. And I'm happy to share that with all with all the participants that are on the calls, because we're talking about my experiences based on my lifestyle, my life and my lifestyle, as well as business and everything else. And so we can go into a depth, understand for the people that are listening here. Hey, I have been where you are at this point. You haven't been where I am, which is 91 years.
Well, indeed. In fact, one of the things that I love is you've mastered, even when you were working for Donald for many, many years, you mastered work-life balance, where you were working in the city 4 days a week, and then you were at home out on Long Island 3 days a week. And,
right.
Still having major responsibility in a major corporation with huge, huge responsibility, you were able to maintain that balance. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and not only that, it's a balance of your lifestyle with being a major contributor or a part in one way into charities or your family or your religious whatever the background, and to be a participant instead of just a spectator.
I love it. Well, you mentioned negotiation, and that's a natural segue. We've got a brilliant case study happening in front of us in the news every day. Headlines on virtually every newspaper, whether it's the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times, are reporting that the trade negotiations with China are hurting the economy. Now, clearly, that's not the goal, quite the contrary. But some businesses have been building inventories in order to cope with the uncertainty associated with tariffs. And inventory building ahead of demand is one of the most common causes of a recession, which clearly we don't want. So eventually these businesses, when they've got excess inventory, they'll put their foot on the brakes, they'll stop buying, and that's what causes the typical sharp downturn that we see in recessions. So what are your thoughts on the trade negotiations, and is it possible that we've got some unintended negative consequences from the trade negotiation?
Well, it's very it's a wonderful topic. Of course, it's as far as being current, and understand that I think the whole concept of the tariffs and the trade negotiations is being overblown as to the adverse effect that it might have on some entities or some businesses around. It has to, but it's negative. It's not that great. If you have a product and it now cost you more because of a tariff, generally speaking, that the cost will be absorbed by the ultimate purchaser if they want the product. It's not a question of the price. So some areas are going to be hurt, some businesses are going to be hurt, but the overall result will be, in my estimation, will be extremely beneficial as far as anyone that's doing business anywhere, certainly with China.
Well, I think you're right.
Because for years, what they've been doing is they've been taking advantage of the fact that they have cheap labor and the fact that the government can get involved in everything, and the other countries or participants from other countries don't have that advantage, and therefore that a disadvantage. One of the ways to level the playing field is the tariffs, and it's been that way for a number of years, but nobody wanted to tackle it. So as a result, at this point, China has been taking advantage of certainly Canada, the United States, and other countries that are involved in manufacturing or trying to sell product. Understand, you can't sell a product in China if you make it anywhere else without paying a tariff. They don't want our automobiles. They don't want those. They want you to buy theirs, but they should not be obligated to buy theirs. So it's been an unfair trading situation. And so what I am recommending and highly is not to panic at this. If the economies are good, if people have money, they will buy. If the price goes up a little bit, so what? In the overall scheme of things, it's not going to make a big difference. They'll always buy the best product that's available at an appropriate price. And over a period of time, it will certainly, I have no doubt that it will work out. However, having said that, I don't know what's the appropriate period of time. China's got a long window. They're looking at what happens in the next 50 years, and that's what they're concerned with. Now, what happens? Show me any one of our countries, be it Canada or the United States or anyone in Europe, that has a window of 50 years. We're concerned with what happens this year or next year. So it's very short. So we're looking through a different lens. However, having said we're looking through a different lens, tariffs, as it will work out. They will ultimately end up with buying better products than you can get now at a price that's fair, and not basically maybe Chinese products, but they will be absorbed. The price increases, whatever they are, will be absorbed by the purchasing public, and it's not going to make a tremendous difference price wise. I mean, it's not going to say that nobody would buy it because the price is too high. It's a question they will buy it if there's. So I would not stockpile on the idea that the price is going to go up tremendously. I wouldn't do that at this. I would assume at this point, keep your normal inventories and certainly get the sales. And as long as the sales are that you have the customers, they will have to buy product somewhere. And if they're going to buy product somewhere, they're going to buy it from you. And if the price is higher than what it's not critical. It's not critical. It's not. We're not talking about something that's the price you get priced out of the market. No, I would say, don't worry. Over that, it's going to be short-term pain for some companies and certainly pain for some industries. But on the over the next few years or shorter years, at that, it's going to work out for everybody's benefit, and you're not going to have a depression.
Well, I agree with your perspective that the impact of the tariffs is way overblown. By some estimates, a tariff is a tax. That's really all it is. And so we're talking about $30 billion in taxes, and the federal government today collects $1.5 trillion. So it's really a rounding error in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely.
So, to the fact that the media is so focused on this $30 billion is really quite a distortion.
It is a distortion, and the main thing, one of the main things that makes it a distortion is that there's a general feeling, and everybody, right, that free trade is the right way to go. Agreed. However, what's the right way to go if one of the parties wants to stack the deck? Then that's not free trade.
Exactly.
So you have to say, okay, if I'm dealing with somebody that's stacking the deck, I can't do the same thing I would do with somebody that I trust completely. And I think that over the next few months or a short period of time, you're going to see the realization by many, many countries and certainly companies that are doing business in those countries to say, okay, how do I get my business and solve my problems with the customers, even though there may be a question of a necessity increase in prices because of the tax that's placed on the products. If the economies are good and people have jobs, they want to spend the money, the price becomes that they pay is not critical. They would buy whatever it is, and that goes with steel, and it goes with everything else that's available in the marketplace. It's not, it's not limited to any one particular area. The main thing is to see whether or not in the countries themselves, whether or not there is a tendency to inflation, because inflation could be, if it's rampant, could throw everything wacky. But if it's not and it's kept in a reasonable area of control because of the regulations, so it works. It works. I mean, I've seen it go through. I mean, we were buying steel at one point from somebody that was in a particular country where they had 300% inflation in a year. I bet it got a bid on for steel at this $2 million worth of steel. The guy says the people were sorry. This bid is good for 3 hours.
Wow.
Okay, but that was because of the inflation.
Sure.
He doesn't know where he could buy it, and as far as work is concerned. But you don't have that right now. Will we have it? Is there a possibility? There's always a possibility. But I don't see it. I don't see it I see the turmoil only in the fact of the people that are relating to it. You have a tendency, well, tariffs are bad. The answer is no. Tariffs are not bad if they eliminate the unfair trade practices.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
And where you have a country where you have at this point how much China buys of our goods and how much we buy of their goods, and you see the tremendous difference in this, and then they devaluate the currency so that they basically swallow the market. So you have an unfair playing field. What do? You have to figure out how you're going to survive and accomplish what has to be accomplished because you're playing with a crooked deck.
Well, absolutely.
So I'm not as concerned about it, as long as basically the economies of the participants or the countries are good. And you've seen this. We've seen it. You see a deal made between the United States and Canada on a lot of products. And they're going to say, as far as we're concerned, our product is, well, we'll talk more about fair trade, but we're not getting involved with doing it with China because they don't play fair. So as long as people have jobs, the economy is good. You don't have inflation or a lot of the products which go wacky, which are important, such as foodstuffs and gasoline, petrol, all those. As long as they stay with some type of a balance, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it.
I love our monthly mastermind calls with George. If this is something you think might be of interest to you, definitely check out the mastermind. You can also find out about this at victorjm.com/events, along with the goals retreat. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.